Thank you, lady friend.
So yeah, welcome audience. We were just catching up for the last, I don't know, 20 minutes on things and stuff.
Life.
uh, but welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We were just catching up and touching on a couple things, and Brian had mentioned an update with Cindy and how your kind of roles reversed, especially with the responsibilities at home with the kids. So did you want to kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. We since moving and everything, it's not that I was a stay-at-home dad in Colorado, but I had an extremely flexible schedule to where I was available in the mornings and school pickup, kind of the bookends of the school day, really. But then with that being said, that if my phone rang and water was pouring out of the roads, then things would have to pivot fast.
Yep.
But now we have kind of swapped roles to where I'm out the door by 5:30 almost every morning, pretty much, and not getting back here until end of school. So Cindy now has become the morning responsibility and getting kids to the doctors and dentists and orthodontists here now too. So she's feeling guilty that she's not working full time, grinding it out every day. And I was just telling you, Mike, that if there's no guilt that needs to be felt on her end whatsoever, because this is what's motivating me to be in my situation now, is enabling her to be home with the kids, to almost feel that, because she was heavily committed with her job before, and she not lost, but she didn't get to experience a lot of that time with the kids in those morning and evenings. And that's a large part when you look at it. At our daily schedules, between the kids at school and adults at work, that's the majority of your day. And the mornings and the evenings can be chaotic, but that's at the same time, that's precious time, especially when you have little kids that they don't have their own schedules yet and their own trainings, their own practices. So they're relying on you to be around, to be present. So I'm glad Cindy's changed her scene a little bit to where she can be around and more involved with the kids. So
yeah, it's I'm kind of smiling and I'm shaking my head because that happened with us too when we came back out here. Because in Pennsylvania, I would typically be able to put the girls and then later on Elena on the bus at, I don't know, 8:30. And then I was pretty much in the car 8:30 to 9 commute, and then at work all day, and then I was coming home at, I don't know, 6 usually. But when I would come home at night, the girls would typically have gymnastics, and that would go to 8, 9 o'clock at night. So essentially, with Robin teaching, she was the one, other than getting the girls on the bus in the morning, because Robin she was teaching, she had to be at school obviously earlier.
Yeah.
Robin was the one taking them to the doctors and taking them to the extracurricular activities in the afternoon, and going here and going there. And again, I didn't get to experience. I mean, sometimes you don't want to go to the doctors and stuff like that, especially when you have two girls. But in any event, I didn't experience some of that. And then when we moved here, our roles reversed just because I was working out of the house and I had a hell of a lot more flexibility because I didn't have to go to an office. So now I was the one getting them to the doctors, getting them to extracurricular activities. And it's kind of transitioned a little bit back to Robin. And Robin felt that kind of guilt too, that she wasn't able to be here and do some of the things that she used to do. And that's how this stuff works. That's how a partnership, that's how a marriage, that's how a relationship works. That's how a family works. We pick up each other's slack. And yeah, I mean, there's you said guilty. You mentioned the word guilt, and you mentioned guilt, and I think, I mean, we don't want to feel that, but there is a level of guilt or yeah, I mean lack, which is guilt. It's because you want to be involved, you want to be doing this. Some of the greatest moments were in the car just driving to school for 15 minutes, and even when there's silence, even or when there's other girls in the car or friends in the car with the girls, and you're just listening to those conversations and listen to like probably with you and the twins and their conversations.
Yeah.
Those are some really great times. And I look back from the times back when we were in Pennsylvania that I didn't get to experience some of that stuff, which, it is what it is now. But those are some precious moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just being aware and not trying to, and that's why I've caught myself a lot, just having kids in general, is not rushing through that checklist, the daily checklist, and trying to grind everything out and just trying to take a moment from time to time. And, maybe it is during a busy, trying to get a dinner thrown out at a decent time and everything. But at the same time, it's like, all right, just take a moment here, chill out, look at these kids. They're not going to be sitting at this table forever. They're not going to be this age, especially forever. And you want to pull your hair out because you still got a pile of homework to do. But at the same time, it's like, all right, we'll look back at this and really cherish it.
Well, we got,
There was a special time.
the girls, the girls leave for school in the morning. They're driving themselves, so
Hmm.
that's out of the, that's out. And, now I drive Robin to work in the morning when I'm here. So we have
Yeah.
that moment. I mean, we do have the moment in the morning. Most mornings we walk the dog together. So we are able to have that 45-minute catch up and then another 15 minutes in the car, just to kind of, okay, what's the plan for the day? How are you going to navigate it? Uh, but, then the day happens, and then we're coming home and it's, what's for dinner? What are we doing for dinner? Are we
Yeah.
rushing to get something on the plate? And then we got to get it because there's no consistency. This. There's with Elena in soccer, there's no consistency. She might have practice at 4 one day, 7 one day, a game at 5:30 one
Oh,
day.
yeah.
You're just all over the place, and you're right. You gotta step back and say, okay, yeah, pretty soon, especially in our case, real soon, it's over with. Um,
Yeah.
so there,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
there's the guilt on that side, is that because you're going from one thing to the other, trying to rush to get the food on the table or to get out the door or to get somebody from point A to point B. And then there's, after the moments there, you've accomplished your goal. There's guilt because maybe you got into an argument in the way there, or maybe, you know, the conversation wasn't what you wanted it to be. So there's frustration that, what, why do we just waste 20 minutes talking about that nonsense when we could have been just talking about something better?
Yeah. 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 And it overcomes, I mean, it takes over a lot of it. What shouldn't be a priority usually becomes a priority. It's unfortunate, but that's just the truth unless you are able to press pause and really reflect and look where you're at right there. And it's tricky because of, I've been thinking too, with how much stress and pressures that our work and our livelihoods have effect on our day-to-day happiness too. It's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate, but if your average 8 to 10 hour day work day, kids are the same thing, 8 hours or so. The majority of our days are consumed by a livelihood or academics right now, and that dictates, or that has major influences on your level of enjoyment just in general, because it's everybody has, like, if you have a bad day at work, then that's gonna usually roll over. It's hard to shake off a bad day just on the drive home, or like for you, like walking through one doorway and into the next room. it's
Right.
it's it's hard to shake that all the time, and letting that bad day at the office play a large role into your evening to your night, and then waking up the next morning. That's the unfortunate part too. And the kids are the same thing. They have a great day in school, they come back, they're jazzed, and maybe that is contagious, and kind of lifts you up, or vice versa. If they're down, try to pick them up. Try to work with each other and stuff, and spouses too. But it's just like, oh, this I got to make money, right? So I got to work. But if you're just getting beat up, or that has effects and comes home onto the family, and then the weekends aren't enough time to recover, and then you got to go back and do it all over again.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, a very valid point too, because there's that question. I pick up Robin from work 2 or 3 days a week, and we get in the car. The first thing we say, so how was the day? And you know,
Yeah,
it's and I think we're both pretty good at saying, yeah, it was fine, it was okay. And I've gotten to the practice of saying patient progress, and she sometimes will drill, and I sometimes will drill, and sometimes we'll just offer how the day went, good or bad, good, bad, or ugly, or different. Um, and fortunately, now that I'm thinking about it, fortunately, I think just in some of the drive home, 15 minutes when we walk in the door, I think she has a better ability to release and let go. As you know, I have that pattern of I want to figure it out. I want to be able to create something better out of the situation. So I'll just not purposely, but just naturally hold on to it. Um, so we could have a conversation that lasts for 10 minutes, and then an hour and a half later, I'll bring it back up to say, okay, well, let's talk about it this way and
yeah.
navigate through it. She's like, I completely
You're
let go of that.
you're dissecting it. Yeah,
Well, and that's just in a good portion of the things that I face, I do dissect it with, but those areas where like like a race. I was on a call today and somebody asked me about, you got this race coming up. What do you do? How do you prepare for it? How do you plan for it? What are your expectations for it? I'm like, I don't. We don't really. We plan to show up and toe the line, and at that point, we might have thoughts in our mind of how we would like the race to start and how we progress through it. But you know, you and I know this, and people that do it know it, that can change in the first mile. You know, and we consistently say this is all a metaphor for life, but I'm able to release those expectations. I'm able to release the obstacles and challenges and the um, what do you want to call it? The punches in the face of a race, but it's harder for me to release those in that business life or that professional life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's right foot, left foot, but still, you can't drop everything while moving forward. Some things you bring with you, other things are easier to be left behind. But yeah, it takes practice. I think
Oh yeah,
there's practice like everything, but yeah, it's so, and like you said, Robin's got better ability to do that than you do, but and everybody, I think everybody's just different. So
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
yeah,
There's a thing that I wrote down earlier today, and Robin, it's actually, forget what book it was. I forget what the situation was and how it all came up, but the thing that I remembered, and I brought this up to her last week, and we try to have all these balls up in the air, right? And trying to there's a number of components in our life that we want to ensure that we're making progress on and we're becoming better with, right? But it's really, really difficult to have all the balls up in the air, whether it's your professional career, your nutrition, your health, your marriage, relationships, spiritual, financial, blah, whatever the case may be. We have all these components in our life that we try to manage and navigate and improve on each day. Very difficult to have them all up at the same time. And I read a book, and I again forget, and I could probably Google it and find it, but there was a metaphor that this guy told me about, or the book told, I read in the book, and it was about, uh, you put a bunch of frogs in a tub of butter, right? Tub of butter. And what they do is they try to scramble and scramble and scramble to get to the top, get to the top, and get to the top. But the more they're churning their legs, the thicker that butter is getting until they can't move anymore, until they die, you know?
Uh-huh.
So at times lately, you know, over the course of the last, you know, beginning of this year, when things change, it seems like there's a lot, I feel a lot more times where I feel like that frog in that tub of butter. And we're talking about
just flailing away.
flailing away. And Robin, we were talking about it today. She's like, you know, maybe sometimes you got to figure out a different way to not get stuck in the butter. And I'm like, not get stuck in the tub of butter. I'm like, holy shit, that's a podcast today. That's it.
Yeah, I like it.
But it seems like this is basically how the conversation went throughout the last several months. There's always been something that's been up, you know, I've been able to manage pretty well. And there's some other things that are down. But at some points in the last couple of weeks, it feels like it's just, I'm flailing away at so much. And or, you know, I'm starting to creep a little bit up towards the top of the tub, and then I just slide back down.
Yeah, back to where you started. Yeah,
exactly.
No, I can definitely drink to that. Like, but it's patient progress too. Then all at the same time too, where you're not gonna jump right out of the tub of butter, but you know, if you could wipe your hands and maybe get a little grip or something, you know, but that takes time.
I like that.
But if you just stop thinking, let frustration take over, then that is when you just freak out, you know, and lose yourself. But it's also not just affecting you; it's affecting all those other frogs in that same tub, you know, because you could be chill, cool, calm, and collective, but the other guys are just, you know, churning that butter up, you know.
Yep.
So it's, you know, kind of look around, look and see who's around you, and maybe you need to do some powwows with people so they know where you're at, you know where they're at, you know, and kind of work together as a team, not solely try to get yourself out of that butter.
Yeah, the patient progress, that's one thing I was thinking about last week, is that whatever the situation is, right? No matter where it might be flailing, right? And there's a lot of flailing, don't get me wrong. It's there's nothing going on that's preventing me from continuing that patient progress or continuing that flailing, however you want to look at it. But it's that consistently moving forward. You know, it's just, you know what? Right now, things might suck in this area of my life, or that area of my life, or this area of my life. And you know, in some instances, in some areas of people's life, it's really, really bad. But is it really preventing you from taking that next step? And I mean, I was thinking about this really, really deeply, where I fortunately, I guess, there's been parts of my life where I wanted to stop doing things, give up on things, and you know, no longer continue on that journey, whatever that journey is, right? But in so many areas, I've gone past that. We all have. I know specific stories where you have, and I think the frustration is going to be there. You know, the feeling that we're flailing is going to be there. But as long as we are able to continue to move those little legs, we're going to get somewhere. And it might not necessarily be the end result that we were looking for, but we're going to become better people on that journey. And it could be pivoting. We could, maybe we want to own our own Burger King, right? But you know what? We'll take the journey, we'll get hit, we'll not get knocked down, and it's not a Burger King, but we own a little mom and pop burger joint. We're still going to get to somewhere, and that path there ain't going to be the way we thought it was going to be, but we still got to where we wanted to be. We still became a person that we wanted to be, and that's where my mind's been going a lot. It's just, yeah, you know what? It's not about where I am right now. I just got to keep moving forward because at some point it's going to be somewhere and I'm going to be looking back on that journey and realize, wow, it's been quite a path we went down.
Yeah. Yeah. And that reflection, I think that's the same thing as, taking that time to see where you're at and see where you've come, look behind you a little bit and just see rather than always looking forward. I don't think it's a bad thing to look behind from time to time. Everybody always says, keep forward, look forward, but from time to time, like check out your rearview mirror, see those footsteps in the snow where you're at.
Well, where you started
That's
too, right? Specifically,
yeah,
where you came from, and if you look back in the rearview mirror every day, yeah, you might see a little bit of movement, right? But if you take account of maybe 5 years or 10 years or even a year, right, from where you were and where you are, and I'm not just talking about professional career, money. I'm talking about mentally. How are you as a parent? How are you as a partner, as a spouse? How are you as a kid, or whatever the case may be? Take a look at you know many of the areas of your life and see, okay, where have I made progress with those areas in the last 5 years? Where have I seen the biggest gap, positive gap? And the other one is, where do I not think I am I where I want to be? And if I'm not where I want to be or where I wanted to be, what do I got to do better to get there by
yeah,
looking back at where I started? Because if you're looking back on where you started in an area in your life and you're at the same place, I mean, is that where you've wanted to be? And if so, by all means, okay. But if not, where'd you become deficient?
yeah, yeah. If you've done a full cycle, that's one thing. I mean, that's what I've been hearing a lot of here in the last few weeks, just with getting back on the mat here at Abington, get involved with the wrestling program. As I've run into some people and like, oh yeah, full cycle. Then it's like, yeah, yeah, I guess it could be. Definitely could be, but it's not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, this guy, he's ending up right where he started and everything. But it's more like the hero's journey, which I'm not boasting about myself or anything, but if anybody's listening, it's a really interesting theory to look into. I read about it for a little while. I guess this was last winter, but there's stages where everybody goes, and you're brought up somewhere, but then you go out and you learn skills and you learn how the world works and everything. But then you come back and you bring all that you gathered over the years coming back, and I was like, wow, that's pretty darn close to my situation right now.
100%.
But
All the
it's
knowledge and experience, man. That it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, that's going to be really cool to see how the lessons you've learned and the person you've become in this specific situation translates to you coaching wrestling, a sport where you did for a decade and a half of your life.
yeah, yeah, and it is exciting because I really haven't been thinking much about the technical part of it, so to say, of the moves and teaching these kids how to become better wrestlers. But I'm I'm really psyched for bringing in things we've learned from ultras, things I've learned from just being on solo trips and everything, and kind of what I've relied on wrestling to get me through a lot of those
That's
situations.
really cool,
Now,
actually.
now I could come back and bring those lessons back to the sport and to those involved with it now. So
That's
it's
really cool because you at first grit, resiliency,
yeah,
perseverance, work ethic, all that stuff, which exactly you used and leveraged what you learned wrestling for all those years,
yeah,
how much of an important role they've essentially got you to who you are today. And now
yeah, the
you're able to,
foundation.
yeah, now you're able to, I think from your perspective, it's going to be more and I want to say mental and
I was
mindfulness
just gonna say
kids.
mental. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
I think there's a portion of that because I don't think you're going to be getting on the mat and doing backflips and doing all that nonsense and doing all the crazy stuff they do now, or doing splits with stuff. I don't,
Yeah.
but
There's no
there's
funk. I'm bringing
no,
no funk.
no fun. No. And I'd be the same way, man, because the first funk
I
that I
think
would
I
do is
jacked
something,
my neck last week when I tried to get funky.
yeah, right. But it'll be, and that's, I mean, we've had this conversation a lot, especially with the age group that you're working with too. We've talked about this a lot where I think that age group, that 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old age group is, I think, really an important, even a little bit, even before that, 10, 11, 12, that whole, we'll say 10 to 16, 10 to 15 is really important, I think, especially around the mindfulness and the mental component of anything that they're doing, because I don't know how much they get that in school,
Yeah.
in their academic pursuits. And in some instances, how much do they get that in their athletic pursuits or any of their extracurricular activities. And I think I mean, you've seen it. You've already seen it in, coaching cross country and coaching wrestling back there. You've already seen some, and then with the kids too, your kid, your
Yeah.
own, how
So
word choices and how not only saying but showing and doing, just some of the things that we've done over the last 15 years, it goes a long way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's exciting, and it's like Cindy said, it's something that will fill my bucket too. And even though none of my kids are necessarily involved in it right now, maybe Taylor's entertaining Pee Wee's right now, so we might experiment there with just some practicing there. But yeah, I'm really looking excited to see getting back to the motherland there, and kind of as a different person, getting back on those same mats, but as a different
Yeah,
person.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm pretty envious. That's pretty awesome. I'm
Oh,
gonna I'm,
thanks.
I'm gonna be excited to watch that journey because that's fun. And there's just like you said, all a large part of our foundation of who we became, wrestling has been a part of it. Not only wrestling, but the family there, that Abington Heights community and that wrestling
Yeah,
community, which, I don't, I know there's that culture that's still there. I don't know how much of that culture is still there, but I think you might have an opportunity to kind of bring us some of that culture back, all the good parts of that culture.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There still is. I mean, there's still a lot of common ground, but in a more modern version, maybe. But
Right.
yeah, I'm looking forward to, and just who's still around this area that wasn't necessarily part of that family, but really involved. Not a wrestler or the family of the wrestlers, but there's a lot of people that enjoyed a lot of our friends. So I think those local folks can maybe try to get the fire lit again. So
Yeah,
I'm,
that'll
I'm
be fun to watch.
excited.
Yeah, that'll be
I'm
fun to
ex-
watch, man.
yeah. So they had a spotlight now. So it sounds like that has come back. It went away, but now for the meets, the spotlight's back. That's back. So that's I'm like, okay, we could do this. We can do this.
That might I have a feeling this might encourage me and inspire me to take a couple of trips back there during the wintertime.
It'd be fun. That would be fun. Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, bring my wrestling shoes with me.
Yeah.
Even if I still have wrestling shoes, if you could believe it.
Well, all those old school ones are coming back now, so
I know.
you'll be right in style.
God bless you. So, all right, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's tie a knot on that. I like that. I like that ending. I didn't ask you, what are you drinking?
Oh yeah, I cracked it open. So I was going to look for Oktoberfest of some sort. Actually, Yingling has an Oktoberfest this year.
Interesting.
I had a few at a campfire at the neighbors the other night this weekend, but they didn't have it. So the next best fall beverage I could do is
Oh,
the old
nice.
black and tan, baby.
Now, is that the 16-ounce bottle?
No, it is not. It's not the returnables.
Yeah, I don't even. That's what you knew where I go. That's what we drank at college occasionally. So I just got water. I'm on.
That's good. And this is, for the record, this was my first weekend or my weekday beverage, and probably since our last podcast.
Oh wow, that's
So
good.
I did change it up here.
Good.
So yeah. So yeah,
That's
good on
so,
you with the water though.
Yeah. I had a good weekend. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
speaking of Yingling though. That's because Florida has it, so I was able
yep.
to partake in
Oh yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch
You
of
got a little
those.
fix.
Yep.
Good, good to hear. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was I guess once we first got to the hotel, uh, we went out to the pool and Paul
Ordered
was like, "Yo,
lager.
they got Yingling here." I'm like, "All right, well, I guess I know what I'm going to be drinking for the next couple days."
No brainer there. Good.
No,
You and
no,
Robin got your fill.
we had a couple, yeah, we had a couple.
Good.
So
Good to
uh,
hear.
hence none tonight. So
Yeah, it was that good.
yeah. So all right, man. Well, good catching
All
up.
right. Sounds
Glad
good.
things
Yeah,
are.
thanks. We could finally do this.
Yeah, we'll
Been a
keep it
while.
again. Apologies to the audience. We're going to continue to do our best. We're all hectic. We're all running around, so we appreciate it. And maybe people are appreciating a little bit more because we're not getting them out as much.
Yeah. You don't have to listen.
So, well, thanks everybody. Yo, dude,
Sounds
just
good.
keep it up. I'm
Yeah,
actually
you too.
headed up to your old neck of the woods tomorrow. I'm going up to Denver. So,
Jealous. Pack warm. They got snow there, or at least Fair Play. They got snow yesterday, so Denver should be pretty though.
it was
So.
49 degrees this morning down here walking a doggy.
Oh, really? Whoa. That was
Yeah.
colder than it was here. We had like 61 today.
What was your
So,
high?
it wasn't much higher than that. It stayed in
Okay.
the 60s today.
We
Look at
got
that. We got the weather in too.
we got the weather and
It's official full podcast.
we just reversed it a little bit. We went ass over
Drinks and weather.
ass over tea kettle. Uh,
That's
yeah,
okay.
it got up to 75 today. It's
Wow. Oh, it's
really,
perfect.
yeah, it's really nice. And yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to get 79 tomorrow and maybe 80 in the weekend. So I think we're in the good spot now for the next 6 months.
Yeah, perfect. Make the most of it. Now's your time.
You too, brother. Have a
All
good
right.
rest of your week, man. I'll catch up with you soon.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Much
Much love. Peace.
Peace out. Hang up.